Hello and welcome everybody to Luna View. My name is John and welcome to the family farm. This is 1964 and essentially this is what my dad and mom bought in 1964 was this dairy farm. This building was a chicken barn in 1964, but I couldn't find a mod to even come close to that small little barn. So I went ahead with the shed that came along. The house is mostly white with a red roof. This is as close as I can come. In 1964, he had a 1964 Chev half-ton in this color. Toothpaste color. Yeah. So this is as close as old truck style I can come. As for the barn, essentially almost about this size when he got it, and he expanded out that way and he expanded out that way in the years to come. I tried different things to extend this barn out and I really couldn't do it and to save the triggers. Our barn was much taller and almost 3 times as wide, and we had a hay barn in the back of it. Yeah, so essentially the cows came from the field. There was no freestall that time. We had a freestall summer parlor, and in the wintertime they were inside and were in stalls. But yeah, they came along and came in this side of the barn, went in there, and then they would have came out about the middle part of the barn and out again for the summer. In the winter time they were just inside. So I'll take a look at the land here we have. So the road kind of like I'm an Alex Pro nature map, and I found this area here, and it's somewhat similar to where I grew up. So we had a fairly good secondary road going by the house. Had a row of trees out front in 1964 with some apple trees and pear trees and elm trees. These 2 big trees right there are still there today. This elm tree has been cut down, and there's an elm tree growing right here beside the fuel tank, and it's still there today. That was all similar. The fields, pretty well similar. They come out here, and then there would be a line of houses going up here. And we have fences all around to keep the cows in, of course. That tree was there until the mid 2000s, early mid 2000s, 2005 or so. That tree was cut down. There was some old sheds I didn't put in. I didn't have anything modded that looked even close to it. There was an old kind of a structure back here. This is where I'm going to make my TMR, or I had made my TMR. Also, eventually, there's an old combine sitting, pull-behind combine sitting here. This little span of trees here I was here up until about 8-9 years ago when the farmer finally leveled that spot down. And as you went back, you would have came back to a line of trees spanning the fields back here, and there would be a short little jaunt, and then you would have been into the backfield, which wasn't available in 64. It came along a few years later. So I didn't do anything to this field and farming wise yet. But basically, he had all grass fields except for one field that'd be wheat, and he used that for straw. And he used straw until the combine burnt, and they left it back here, and then from there he went on to sawdust for bedding. We always used hay. In the late 70s to early 80s, we cut corn for fall feeding, and we had bins out here, and where we feed the cows, our cows, the corn in the fall. And then fields would usually be that field with the trees in it, or this field over here would be full of corn at that time. But in 64, there was none of that. It was mostly just the straw and the hay for the cows, and they raised on the pasture, you know. They were able to eat the fresh grass as it became available for them. So get down on ground level here, and we'll take a look at a few things that, you know, I grew up with. The garden was always back here in this corner, right behind the house. Over here, the machinery he had at the time. Dad worked for an international dealership in the 50s after he immigrated from Holland in the Miramichi here. And that guy, Gordon Matthews, had this farm. And when it came time that Dad wanted to strike on his own and say, you know, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be doing that, Gordon didn't want Martin Linden and my dad going too far away because he was an excellent mechanic, especially for fixing balers and, you know, on the carburetors and stuff of the tractors. So Gordon offered him this farm. He bought it, and he came along with the 1959, not this tractor, but it was an International Farmall 350 utility tractor with a loader on it. And it came with the beige bucket. I remember that. This was also beige as well, I remember. Also, he had two Ford tractors, two 8Ns. One had a loader with it, and this mod didn't have a loader attached to it. So, in light of no Ford 8Ns in the game, I picked these two 30 horsepower tractors because that's what they were, 30 horsepower tractors, and they did the job. We got no pull behind combine that I could get in the mod hub, so this old guy who only holds 1,500 liters, he did the job for us, and he'll do the job for a couple years until he burns in the field, I guess. And we had exactly one of these on the farm a little later on in the 70s, but it works fine with these guys, so I use it now. Our balers were always International or New Holland. Our cutters at first in 1964 would have been one sickle bar. Because I can do this, I decided to do that. It works really well with this tractor anyway, because it's tall enough in the front to put that front lifter on, eh? And then when you put down the cutter, it doesn't jack up the front of the tractor. It works really good, no problem at all. As I say, our diesel fuel tank, and we had actually a gas fuel tank beside it at 1.2 early on. It was always here, and that elm tree grew up right beside it, and our garden was right here, and didn't seem to be an issue back there in the 60s and 70s and early 80s. No, not a problem at all. Yeah, good food we grew. As for this is a barn. On this side here, you would have had all the milking parlor, the stanchions and stuff, and we milked, in the end, about 60 cows milking. So Dad started off 12 cows milking. And then he grew quite steadily from there. Not too long at all. He extended the barn on this side and extended the barn on the other side, and he had room for 50 cows, and then we had another 10 more a little later on in the 70s, and that was just interior designing, and a hay barn in the back to take up the hay that we were losing on the interior when we expanded on the interior a bit. So this is essentially, yeah, what he had. He always had 3 wagons. He always had 3 tractors. When most farms only had the 1 tractor or maybe 2, Dad started off with 3, and always kept 3 tractors on the go. Never went big horsepower. That 350 International was 47 horsepower. And in the end, we had a 484 FS24. It was our newest tractor in 1980, and that was 55 horsepower. And our barn had a manure chute, basically. It went up here from the cows where they were in their stanchions, and it went out here and dropped into this big pile here, which we took away. And I didn't want to screw up that slurry trigger, so I put the manure pit over here, and got some manure and to spread later on once I put the cows in. So what I did, Dad had the opportunity before he moved into the farm to get hay, get things set up and whatever, because, you know, he knew the owner very, very well. And when he actually took over and moved in, he kind of had cows ready, you know, they were milking already and things were on the go. So I'm going to give you some shots of the tractors working and what he had to do to kind of prepare before he got them cows into the stalls. So let's get on to the field work.
There we go. Well,
So now that we got all the hay, straw, the TMR made, all that stuff, and thank you for that production up there for making the TMR for me. And it's something we didn't use ever was TMR, but essentially the game kind of requires it for dairy cows. That's why I'm doing that. But yeah, our feeding was done with minerals and a dairy ration. And actually, if I can go in the barn here, about the middle of the barn, there was a pipe from the outside, and we had a silo directly in the middle of the barn, a big wooden silo. It was a gravity bin, basically. You open up the chute, and she just flow into your wheelbarrow, and you go feed your cows. And that came about once a month, the truck, and it filled up with the dairy ration. But we had, yeah, an internal silo in the barn. Well, it worked for us, I guess. As long as you had the cats around, you know, you didn't have a rodent problem. But yeah, so what we should do is fill up Dad's barn with a few cows there, and I can get on. Now, he never had brown Swiss, or, well, he did have one brown one, but mostly, always, he had Holstein cows. And he started off 12. Now, there's some calves there and different things, you know, maybe about 20 animals or so, but yeah, he started off with that much. So, we'll feed that much. I almost wrecked myself there. We'll get ourselves a tractor, hook it up to the wagon, and let's give him some TMR. I really like this tractor. Works really well. Also, when you start it up, you pretty well can get up and go. The other two over there, you start it up and you're gonna go get coffee and you come back and, oh, we're ready, and we could be ready, you know. So I already put 10 hours on the McCormick here. She's been my workhorse. She'll do the baling and different things. So I'm around the front here. Alright, dandy wagon, really like the wagon. A little period correct possibly. We did have other equipment around that, you know, probably won't be using in my series, but yeah, we had the disc as well as a plow and a chain harrow as well. Chain harrow, I know about that a bit. I always had to do that when I was younger. I'm missing it. There it is right there. Now they'll probably, I don't know. It takes a lot to fill this barn probably, so we're not gonna go through every wagon load I'm doing. But we'll do the first wagon load and see how she works. And she does. There you go, cows. That'll do you for an hour. I'll be back though. We'll give you more food. Healthy looking bunch there, eh? And we always had grade cows, or kind of bred our own to the best, you know, future animal we could have on the farm. Our milk production was extremely good at the time. For the size of herd we had a pretty good at milk production going on. And it was all through breeding what Dad did with different bulls and stuff of that. And we got bulls from the federal government, actually, purebred Holstein bulls from the federal government at a penitentiary that was, doing dairy farming. So, yeah, we had really good cows on the farm, even though they were not registered Holsteins. The milk production and their healthiness and longevity proved that it was a great herd. Anyhow, this is 1964. The next step is about the 70s, where he finally got a new tractor, brand new tractor with an International 434 gas tractor, and he wanted it for blowing snow in the winter mostly. And yeah, that's where our next stop will be. There, and what else he did in the 70s, because he wasn't doing wheat anymore or straw, he was doing sawdust for bedding. So, I don't know, wood chips? Maybe that's a thing. Thank you very much for joining me, and we'll continue this story next time.